Folks, welcome back to another episode of The Fallen Badge. Today's episode, the murder of Corporal Bruce McKay III, Franconia Police Department, New Hampshire. Corporal McKay was 48 years old. He had 12 years with the Franconia Police Department. Now, Franconia is a small town, northern half of New Hampshire. Sits right there by the White Mountains. Now, Corporal McKay had a daughter. I believe at the time of his death she was 9 years old. He had a fiance. His mom and daddy were still alive, and he had a sister. And I believe at one time he was also a fireman there in that area. Now, suspect in this case, this is just another example of if you would just comply with the lawful directions of a police officer, we wouldn't have any problems. This suspect's obvious disregard for the law, rules, regulations, etc., etc. When I saw some of the resource material from people that knew the suspect, he was evidently never been told no when he was growing up, and evidently never got his butt tore up when he did wrong. Now, these events are going to start in January of 2003. And the media and some people that live there in the Franconia area, they're trying to make this some kind of a blood feud between Corporal McKay and the suspect. Now, from the research I did on the resource material, they only came in contact twice over a period of 4.5 years. Now, if they did have any contact other than those 2 times, you figured the media would have sure put it out there. Sounds like to me the only bad blood was that the suspect just didn't want to do right. He only wanted to do right when it was in his favor. Now, on that January night, Corporal McKay, he sees a vehicle that's occupied by the suspect pulled off to the side of the road. Now, according to the resource material, that was a spot known for drug use, etc., etc. But in any event, whatever the case was, Corporal McKay stopped to check on the occupant of the vehicle, which is within his right. That's what you'd expect an officer to do. During their interaction, which wasn't very pleasant because the suspect was incredibly argumentative, and as you'll hear from the video, Corporal McKay simply asked for the suspect's driver's license. Well, the suspect is sitting in the driver's seat, so that means he has control of the vehicle. Corporal McKay again has that right. Well, of course, the suspect, he refuses. This entire interaction takes longer than it should have simply because the suspect wanted to argue everything.
We showed the video to a former Assistant Attorney General to get his legal opinion of how the situation was handled. A car on the side of a dark country road, a man at the wheel. Corporal Bruce McKay takes a look, but it quickly turns bad.
Do I have to give you my driver's license?
Either that or you can be arrested for failure to identify yourself.
Why do I have to identify myself? You don't shine your flashlight in my eyes, please.
Kenny eventually gives up the license, but confronts McKay at his car.
You're on video and you're on audio. If you want to pursue it, go sit in your car.
Isn't this a public area?
Go sit in your car, Rico.
For how long do I have to sit in my car?
When I'm done.
When can I have my license back?
You will get in your car or you will sit in mine in handcuffs.
Attorney John Kakavis watched the video with us, continually shaking his head.
My initial impression is that Lico was very hostile, very belligerent, and in fact, McKay showed incredible restraint in just trying to get him back into his car. That's a threatening position for any police officer.
Because you're disobeying an officer.
Why is an officer even telling me to do anything? Why are you
Because
here
you're not complying.
Complying with your orders?
That's
You're not
correct.
here to order people around. You're here to serve and protect.
When he does get into his car, he tries to drive around McKay's, even facing him head-on at one point. Then he gets out again.
Back in the car.
I'm requesting
Get back in the left.
Two backup officers show up, and amidst screams, they use force to take Kenny down.
No, stop touching me, please. Stop touching me. Stop touching me. Let go of me. Let go of me.
They were absolutely within their rights to restrain him because he had lost control. And this was all on Lico Kenny. I mean, he could have prevented that entire encounter.
After this incident, Kenny was charged with assaulting a police officer and faced a year in jail. Ironically, it was Corporal McKay who asked the judge to go easy, and Kenny served just 15 days.
As you see from the video, the suspect turns around, tries to leave, and he can't get around Corporal McKay's vehicle. So Corporal McKay calls for some more cars. As you can see, it's a snowy night, and it's a shame the suspect acted like such a fool that you had to get officers driving through the snow to get over there to help Corporal McKay, and it shouldn't have been that way. So of course he resists and he's arrested. Now what's interesting is that when it went to court, Corporal McKay spoke up for the suspect and asked the judge to be lenient on him. That didn't sound like a blood feud to me. And the judge evidently went along with what Corporal McKay requested, because the suspect only got 15 days for assaulting an officer. I don't know if a longer sentence for the suspect would have done any good or not. It sure sounds like, from his interaction with Corporal McKay, that he just didn't want to do right. So now it's May 11th, 2007. Corporal McKay pulls over a vehicle that the suspect's occupying. Now, some of the resource material said it was for speeding. That may have been the initial justification for the stop. But other resource material, including the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 1st District, states that the tags on the car were expired. That's an ongoing violation. Suspect rolled his window down when Corporal McKay got out of his vehicle and said he wanted somebody else to come up there. He didn't want to talk to Corporal McKay. I guess he's just going to stamp his feet and hold his breath. Anyways, Corporal McKay tells him he's not going to do that, obviously. Suspect takes off. Now, there's a front seat passenger in there with the suspect. So Corporal McKay begins a pursuit. He asks for some more cars. Finally, he's able to pass the suspect on a straightaway and block the road, and then turn around and force the suspect to have to back his car up off the road into a gravel area. Corporal McKay walks around behind his cruiser and he uses pepper spray on the suspect. Corporal McKay then steps back out of camera range. Suspect pulls out a pistol, shoots the officer 4 times. Now that wasn't good enough for the suspect. He then backs his car up and he runs over Corporal McKay. What a gutless little person the suspect is. Now after this happens, there's a witness, him and his son. They're in a pickup truck. In fact, they're on the road. They have stopped and they're watching the part of this stop where the suspect's backing up into that gravel area, and Corporal McKay's using his vehicle to herd the suspect vehicle back off the road. So after he sees Corporal McKay shot and then run over, him and his son get out. They run over there. The son gets on the police radio, calls for help, and the father, who was formerly a Marine, he gets Corporal McKay's pistol, and he tells the suspect to drop his pistol. Well, the suspect won't do it. What a shock. The suspect argues with everyone. So he refuses to drop the pistol, and this civilian shoots and kills the suspect. Actions of the witness were later ruled to be justified. Witness had a right to protect himself, his son, and try to protect Corporal McKay. And of course there was gnashing of teeth, accusing the state court of just covering for Corporal McKay and the city of Franconia. Now, unfortunately for these people that are trying to make something out of nothing, federal court said that Corporal McKay's actions were good to go and the actions of the civilian. In other words, the court's saying that Corporal McKay was textbook in everything he did. Court's pointing out that the suspect was not peaceful and compliant. They also said the suspect posed a threat to the officer. In fact, the court went on to say that this lawsuit was nothing more than an effort to tarnish the reputation of Corporal McKay. And they said that whether true or not, that has nothing to do with this court case. Bad-mouthing Corporal McKay, who's dead, doesn't mean Corporal McKay had done anything wrong. They even quoted the Supreme Court. An officer's evil intentions will not make a Fourth Amendment violation out of an objectively reasonable use of force. Appeals court went on to say, we do not even remotely suggest that the evidence even shows such evil intentions. In other words, this whole lawsuit is a bunch of mess. And they affirmed the judgment of the district court. I saw some source material that Corporal McKay was an aggressive officer, like that was a bad thing. I know a lot of jurisdictions right now wish they had some aggressive officers. Corporal N. Bruce McKay III. End of watch, May 11th, 2007.